No, he's fucking good.
That motherfucker don't miss, man.
He's good.
In the heat of battle, he don't miss. In the heat of controversy, he don't miss.
And do our little review on Rich Freighter, episode 8 with special guest Sarah. Sarah is someone who, she just reached out to Darlie. She saw a couple shows, she remembered it, and this is where we're at with it.
Some pictures. I think I told you that earlier this morning, and I wanted to actually show people a little bit about what you were talking about, and maybe have you explain it in a little more detail, because this definitely, you're definitely right. You're definitely right on that aspect. And I think it's important for people to see this.
It was there.
Yes. Now, this first photo, I don't know if you can see what I'm showing on here, Sarah. I remember you were saying you were on a walk.
I'm outside.
Okay.
Step out. So.
Okay. Well, on this first photo here, and I'll explain this to the folks here, and hopefully you'll probably know what I'm talking about, Sarah, because I know you spent some time in that neighborhood.
I walked back there. So it's been a year, but I remember.
Okay. So on this first picture here, you see where Darlie Lynn lived, which was at 5801 Eagle Drive. And you can see the cul-de-sac, and right directly across the street to the right of the picture, on the picture, I should say, is where Karen Neal's house was. Now behind there is an alleyway, okay, which I've never gone up that alleyway, but I'm about to here fairly soon. So let me explore this picture a little bit more on the next slide here. You can still see where 5801 Eagle Drive is. You can also see where the alleyway is, and now all of a sudden we're running into a big vacant parking lot. And Sarah, I have to tell you, when I was looking at this on Google Earth, I was in a state of shock. I have no idea how I could have passed this up. I swear that I went through every square inch up there, but evidently I miserably failed at that.
Well, let me say something though, because with the walk arounds that I did, I did walk through the yards. There are no fences. Not everybody has a security fence. So, and that.
Yeah, he had to correct her because she said there are no fences, but there actually are, except for every 3, which what Rich is talking about.
House is got, and you just walk right through. So and I did, but you really do have to go and explore. It's not something. I've been there 2 other times and never knew it was there. And then before I went last June, somebody on one of the support sites from another country, I can't remember who this person was, but we were talking about all the exit ways out of the neighborhood and how there's no fences and that they could just duck and dodge and be on another street in no time. And this woman said, don't forget about that vacant lot 100 feet from Darlie's driveway. And I said, what?
Yeah.
And she said, yes. And then she sent me the Google Earth of it. And I said, and I was like you, in a state of shock.
Yeah.
So when I went back in June last year, I went straight to it. I couldn't get there fast enough to go see what this thing was. And it honestly looks like, from what I've heard, is that it was possibly like a church, preschool type thing.
Yeah, it's definitely there, and I'm going to look at it. Now, you were talking
this is how it looks today as of now. Here's the issue that we have. Okay. They're going to talk about the direct entrance from Darlock Road to here. Actually, it's a direct entrance to here, to here, to here. Right? But you have to keep in mind, this is a huge church in the city. Right? And if you keep going up, that parking lot is huge. Right? Empty at this point. Let's move down this way and take a look at that parking lot. Okay, so there's ways in and out all over the place up here. Mobile homes right here. Right? All kind of different ways to get in and out. They're absolutely correct. But let's listen to some more.
Talking about the fences now, you know I live in Dallas. I live about 20-25 minutes away from where Darlie Lynn lived at, so I frequent that area. And what I can tell you under Texas state law, first of all, people in Texas are fence crazy. Everybody has a fence, it seems, and the same is true in.
That's because people like to sunbathe. That's why they put up fences. People like to sunbathe in their backyards and stuff.
In that neighborhood, but under Texas state law, every third house has to have a walkthrough.
You're right about
And
that.
I'd like to also point out, yeah, one of the walkthroughs by Darlie Lynn's house is right where the sock was found by the trash receptacle and the storm sewer,
He's
which
correct.
you know where that's at. There's a walkthrough right in between the houses there. So you had access from the front to the back and vice versa, obviously. So that was another thing I wanted to point out. Now I'm also going to put another photo up. This is a bigger shot of that parking lot that goes back behind Karen Neal's house in the alleyway that me and Sarah are talking about. And another thing I found interesting here, folks, if you look to the right of the photograph, you can see a clear access to Dull Rock Road. Mind you, Dull Rock Road is the road that you turn in off of to get to Darlie Lynn's.
Which I mean, I can understand why he's talking about this because it goes in right here. But you still have access up through here. So this one being here isn't any more inconspicuous than these ones.
Former development area. You can go in on Linda Vista, Willowbrook, and you could even come in here. And it clearly shows that here on the picture here. So yeah, this is really interesting stuff here, Sarah, because you and I both know that there was an intruder, and I've always tried to figure out their possible escape route. And this definitely does raise some eyebrows, that's for sure.
And if you've read the testimony, this wouldn't raise a single eyebrow at all. But I'm gonna let him talk.
Yeah, it really shows that somebody could have easily just got away.
Yeah, it's
They could have easily just got away. Okay.
quite possible. It is quite possible. I mean, and yeah, they not only could.
And my concern though with all that is never once in this case is that brought up.
Actually, it was brought up. It was brought up several times. Direct questioning was brought up as to the witnesses that saw Waddell pull up a William Gorsuch, who lived. Well, I would have to show you a different way. Let me show you. Mr. Gorsuch and his wife, who I talked to her recently. They lived in this house right here. Right? And if you're talking about an escape route being over in this area, or even, if somebody went out the back, they still have to go over into this area, right? To get back to whatever car, they would have to go this way. They'd have to take off this way. Except for Gorsuch saw when Waddell pulled up, which is just minutes after Darlie had said he went out in the garage. So you have that witness there. So nobody would have been able to make it across this way without being seen with this gentleman who was in this window right here from this house. And he had a good view. Unless somebody went this way, he wouldn't have saw that. But he would have saw if they would have came out that way.
No,
Heard it before.
no, never. Never. The only thing that you ever hear brought up in the case is that the neighborhood was very hard to get in and out of.
It would be hard to get in and out of with the vehicle. And they kept stressing about a vehicle, a black vehicle, black vehicle, black vehicle. It would be hard to get in and out of that neighborhood without being seen. And if someone were to have jetted across the street shortly after these murders were taken care of, then Gorsuch would most definitely have seen them.
That's about the only thing they'll discuss about that.
And we just proved that's not true.
Right. And these pictures speak a million words.
No, it's hard to get in and out of that neighborhood without being seen.
Let me ask you, sir. I mean, there are some people that are asking some questions. Are you up to answering any questions that people might have?
Now remember, this Sarah is just somebody who saw a couple shows and reached out to Darlie and decided to support her.
Yeah, it depends on what the question is.
Well, right. No, the folks that come into my room, most of them are really respectful people. They know that I won't stand for disrespect. They'll be gone in a second. But my gosh, I don't even know where to start here. There's been a list of questions going here. I tell you what, let's try to do this fairly, folks. If we could start, if somebody wants to post a question for Sarah here, and I can let Sarah know what it says. And
now, I absolutely have no idea who this Sarah is, and he hasn't had her up since.
We'll take it from there. Very good question. Harmony Sky asks, Sarah, well, she actually was asking somebody in the group this, but we'll ask you this because we've actually talked a little bit about the Darlene Potter situation. Actually, there wasn't a question. Okay. Now, yeah, I'm sorry. There's so many.
Okay.
There's so many coming up here. Somebody's asking, how was Glenn Mize eliminated as a suspect?
He never was a suspect.
I'm sorry, what was the name?
The name of the person is Bathsheba, and I'm assuming it's a she. And she asks, how was Glenn Mize eliminated as a suspect?
He was never a suspect. He was only a suspect in the minds of these.
Yeah, I'm not answering that one.
I'm not going to answer that one either.
Because you can't.
Yeah, and you got to remember, folks.
You were just talking about how this won't get mentioned, that it's an easy way in and out, they won't touch it, blah, blah, blah. But the reason that Glenn Mize was eliminated as a suspect is that he was never a suspect. He was only a suspect in the minds of these supporters, period. Just like Chadwick Patterson.
Yeah.
Potter, I could talk a little about that one because that S curve.
Yeah, the S curve on Dull Rock Road, right?
That's what I'd love for you to do is to trace it back to the parking lot and just see that's what I didn't get to do when I was there in last June.
Here's the thing with the parking lot. It's a church parking lot. Everybody knows these little suburbs, especially with the main highway like Lakeview and Darlie, right? Let's take into consideration where Officer David Waddell was sitting. He was sitting in a church parking lot with his cruiser facing the road. Maybe to check a speeder, maybe to go through some paperwork. So that means that the intruder would have had to park his car in this area and leave it there. And this kind of area would be a great area at nighttime for officers just to drive through and take a look. Plus, there's video surveillance on these churches, possibly back then. I wouldn't swear to it, but that would be very risky for an intruder to do that. Plus, they're taking a chance of leaving their getaway way far away, right? Let's see what they got to say.
Because I was so busy,
Yeah.
was to just really investigate that more.
Well, I tell you, I know right where this curve is. I've been there many, many times, and not only visits to that neighborhood, but I do a lot of work down there. And so I'm very familiar with Dull Rock Road. And I know right where that's at. And yes, that S curve would be fairly close to where that parking lot exits out on Dull Rock Road. It's not far at all.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
but you got to understand, folks, there's some questions we don't want to answer because in no way, shape, or form.
Because you can't. Glenn Mize was never a suspect. Never. He didn't need to be a suspect. Why? Because he lived in that area?
Do myself or Sarah want to jeopardize Darlie Lynn's case? So
you can't jeopardize Darlie Lynn's case by speaking a fact about Darlie Lynn's case. No matter who hears that can change it if it's a fact. It doesn't matter who you tell. What do you think, you're going to tell them that and then somebody's going to get in there and change it?
There's things we know, we just don't want to put it out there because it could possibly cause problems in the case. I'm sure you folks understand that. You're just as...
How can a fact cause a problem in the case? A fact isn't a problem. A fact is a clarification that destroys a problem.
You want answers just as much as we do, clearly. But unfortunately, patience is something you have to have here. Let's see here if we can get... I wish I'd get some people ask some...
It's a better way of saying we don't know shit.
More questions here. But if you want to talk about the Darlene Potter situation, Sarah, go right on ahead.
Oh no, I just don't feel like anything was ever truly investigated fully, and the parking lot for me sealed the deal with her story matching up to the event. Also, if Angelia Rickles, I think I said her name right, the woman that lived in the neighborhood, her house was also attempted to be broken into that night. That is just a short few-minute walk.
Yeah,
it could have been the same people. I don't know how it would be related, but
I actually
it wasn't related.
I actually
at all.
did look at that. I've been to the Rickles house on Miami Drive, and I checked it on Apple Maps, and it's exactly 0.2 of a mile from Darlie Lynn's house, which is extremely close. So I mean, it's literally a hop, skip, and a jump. Yeah, it's literally right. Yeah, it's literally a hop across Dull Rock Road, really.
Except for Rickles saw two men, one with a cowboy hat on. Plus, she was having problems with her ex-husband at the time. She identified a blue car that actually belonged to one of the neighbors that lived across the street there. And she didn't report it for days later.
Yeah, you walk right out of the neighborhood there and you go across Dull Rock Road, and I mean, we were on foot and we were there it was less than 5 minutes, and we had to cross the main street there, so.
Right. Yeah, it's
so you have to cross the main street there at 2:30 in the morning. That's pretty risky, isn't it?
It's very interesting, and you're right. There's a lot of stuff that wasn't investigated. As a matter of fact, I know that a lot of very good leads were taken to Detective Patterson, in which, he'd write the leads on paper, and to my understanding, he'd just crinkle them up and throw them in a trash can.
Okay, so that's to your understanding. Is that some kind of fact, or is that just to your understanding? Do you have any evidence of this crinkled up stuff that was thrown in the trash? Who witnessed that? Who told you that? Where'd you get that from?
So you know, he wouldn't even have the thought of entertaining any other possibilities, which that,
So where do you get this from? It's to your understanding, and where do you come to that understanding from? We can tell you guys where our understanding comes from.
that's poor investigative work. Very, very
It would be poor investigative work if you had proof of him doing that.
poor investigative work, especially when you have two murdered children and an attempted murder of an adult. So that just goes to show what kind of people really investigated the case.
No, it goes to show what you said your understanding is. You have no proof of that.
Very, very poor work.
Yeah, I'd be interested to talk to the actual first responders.
You're I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. That's really what when all this breaks out, I'm curious to see what they had to say, what they were told to do, regarding notes being taken. I know Waddell said that he was told not to take any notes.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Waddell can't be standing there in the middle of a crime scene where somebody just got killed, and she's saying the intruder went out that way. They don't even know the scene's cleared, and he's stopping to take out fucking notes. Really? Really? These officers don't have to take notes as long as what they're saying is a fact, and nobody can disprove anything these officers said.
Yeah, I think that's true too. I think they were actually instructed not to investigate any other possible leads for
You think they're instructed not to? Come on, man. You think into your understanding?
reasons that we've talked about in private. But okay, so I got a question here from Donna D. Her question is, why do you think Basha turned on her kind and caring friend like she did?
They say Baja turned on her like she did. Why? Because Baja was given a summons to appear for the state and a witness that by law she had to sit on that stand, and she didn't even tell half of what she knew. Not even half.
Well, I don't know Basha, but from just talking with
What I heard.
Darlie or talking with supporters, I think that the investigators can really twist your words around and make you say things. And I think she loves those boys. I don't think she would ever want any harm to come to that family. But, we don't know what kind of relationship her and Darlie had. We don't know. Nobody knows except her and Darlie and, people that.
All I know is that Beja was Darlie's bridesmaid, and Beja was there and trusted to watch Drake while Darlie grieved with silly string over the graves of her two children.
Were close to them at that time. So we can only speculate why she would have done that.
Well, that's true. I don't know Basha either, but I have.
Why do they call it a turning on her? When you get a summons from the state and they say you need to appear and you have to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, that's your duty as a citizen. You don't worry about your duty as a friend. And, as far as what Beja told me, she didn't tell half of it.
Heard many interviews she has given, and I'm in question to a lot of what she says because some of it just don't make any sense. But on the other hand, I think some of the things she says is accurate, but again, it's just like you said. I think the best way to look at it, and this is my opinion as an investigator, is you can look at what she says under oath, and then you can look at what she says when she's not under oath. And believe me, they're two different things.
That's right, because she cared about Darlie and she didn't want to go volunteering any information. There was two different things that Darren said under oath as well.
clearly two different things.
Yeah.
And the same thing with her mother, Helena, as well. They were clearly two different things. I mean, some of the things that Helena said about Darlie Lynn was just downright criminal in comparison to what she testified to in court.
Mm-hmm.
So, and not just that, you know, anything that Basha really says, she's got no way to confirm what she said had occurred. It's really hearsay anyway.
Well, like what you just said, to your understanding, Jimmy Patterson crunched this stuff up through the trash. Is that hearsay, or is that really, really bad police work?
Right.
So it's really hard to say, but you also have to understand that Basha Javel's also had a history of psychiatric issues.
Where is this history? Darlie Key's had a history of it. Should we not listen to a damn thing that Darlie Key has to say?
And addiction issues as well, which she openly admits to. So I give her credit to that. But on the other hand, that also has to be taken a look at as well.
She said she had counseling after the murder.
There's a long history there too. She'd been around before, I believe, before they were married.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Before Darlie and Darren were married. And so again, we don't know what kind of relationship these people had together for her to turn on her and say things.
I don't think she was around before they were married. I think that they met her when Darren went to work at Colplex. And if you remember correctly, Darren was working at the Western Sizzler when he met Darlie.
Like that.
Well, I mean, it couldn't have been that bad because, I mean, all the way up to the end. I mean, Basha worked for Darren. Basha's mother, you know, worked as a housekeeper in the house. It couldn't have been that bad of a relationship like they claimed it was. Or why would they have done that? Why would
they never claimed that they had a bad relationship with Darlie? You guys keep claiming that she turned on her somehow. Well, maybe if Beja felt like Darlie killed them children and she didn't want to be buddy-buddy with her anymore because she felt like she killed them children, if that's your idea of turning on her, maybe that's what happened.
Would Basha keep working for Darren? Why were they always at the house? Helena was at the house doing laundry, so on and so forth. So if the relationship was that bad, or Darlie Lynn was that bad, I mean, they could have left.
They never said Darlie Lynn was that bad.
But they didn't.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So
if Beja was that bad, if Beja was so mentally unstable, if Beja's drug addiction was that bad, they could have let Beja go anytime they wanted, right?
You know, that's another thing to look at.
And if anybody would have seen, you know, anything odd with Darlie being a mother, they would have said something.
Well, I mean,
there's no reports of her being anything but a loving, caring mother.
Yeah. It clearly points that way. I've actually talked to somebody who is one of Devin and Damon's friends that used to frequent the house. Of course, at the time, he was almost 7 years old, so he was about the same age that Devin was at the time. He had nothing but good to say about Darlie Lynn. He said they loved going over there. And then after the tragedy occurred, he said he couldn't even as much as ride his bike in the neighborhood. He said when he was in the car with his folks, you know, he said if they were going by the house, something, he'd duck his head down between his legs. He's scared to death to even look at the house. So it you know, it kind of got me thinking a little further too. You know, not only were there you know, families that were, you know, extremely uprooted due to this, but it also affected a lot of the children in the neighborhood. And I guess you can say
murder would.
I never really gave that a whole lot of thought until after I actually talked to one of the children that used to frequent that house. And even today, with him being in his 30s, he still don't like talking about it. I mean, he was clearly uncomfortable when, you know, he told me, he said, you're really going to make me, you know, bring one of the worst chapters of my life, you know, back to the light again. I'm like, ooh, well, I'm sorry. I had no intention of doing that. But he talked to me though. But he was very reluctant, you know, due to what it had done.
It is. It's very heartbreaking. And when I first found out that she was still in there, that my children were just 4 and 6.
Yeah.
It really hit hard about, I just sat there and thought, this could be me. This could be any one of my friends. What if this happened to my best friend? What if, you know?
Well, I don't know if you don't kill your kids.
Darlie testified about the baby making noise in the crib, and that's why she was sleeping downstairs.
She had been downstairs for a week, and you got to remember, if the baby had trouble sleeping and was moving around, it didn't wake anybody up but Darlie. Why didn't Darlie find out what the problem was with the baby? Why was he fidgety at night? What was causing that?
Yeah.
And I'm not an expert on the transcripts, so don't quote me on any of this, but I know that she had said she was sleeping downstairs because the baby was noisy in his crib. And I know that. I had 2 kids, and they slept next to me for 5, 6 months, 7 months, and they were noisy. I used to have to sleep with earplugs because they grunt in their sleep, and they roll around, and they're noisy. And so people bashed her about that. And
that means Darlie has to have it really, really, really quiet so she could sleep. You know, she couldn't have 10 stab wounds into her children just inches away from her. She would hear that, right? And wake up. So, yeah, she's got to have it very, very, very quiet, or it'll wake her up to the point where she can't sleep.
That's something that is just totally rings true to any new mother that co-sleeps with the kid in the room. That always bothered me.
Yeah. Any mother would wake up to that. You know, the kid moving around in their sleep. Any mother would wake up to an intruder coming all the way across her house, stabbing her kids. Both of them. Why didn't she wake up while it was happening?
Yeah.
Simple things like that where people took just assassinated her character and made little things into mountains.
Yeah, it's I'm glad you brought the character assassination up. Definitely a very serious problem in this case. What I don't understand out of people, okay, especially the prosecution, even the press back at that time. Now, of course, keep in mind, I mean, I live here in Texas. I'm not initially from Texas, but I live here, and I do know it's extremely conservative. And in '96, it was even more so. Now, I don't see a thing in the world wrong with any lady that wants to make herself look good.
Oh, here we go.
You know, whether it be by wearing, you know, expensive clothes.
No.
I know she had the breast enlargement. That was a big thing that got brought up in the case. So what? That's her right to do that. That certainly does not make somebody a murderer.
She also has 3 children, and
Yeah.
as any woman would testify after.
Yeah, I don't give that much credit either, that she got a breast enhanced. It doesn't mean a thing to me about that.
Having 3 children, and your husband is, you know, able to provide stuff like that for you, why not?
Sure, why not? That's your right to do that. And
Right. And in the 90s, I was a teenager, but that is what I wanted to be and, you know, look like.
Is, you know, everybody says, you know, she's that big attention seeker and this and that and everything else. That's fun. And I met a lot of people that did some very, very serious crimes. And
well, I'm gonna let this go.
Some of their
Peace
files
and chicken
is
grease, y'all.
enough to